All right, Cory, let's go beyond the gap.
If you're enjoying these videos, make sure you head over to our YouTube at Inside the Game and hit that subscribe button, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos.
Cory, you and I jumped into a beloved game that I think is going to take off and go pretty far, because I love the studio that's developing this one. Revolution Software is back, and if you're a fan of the Broken Sword series like I am, this is the next step moving forward. We're talking about Beyond a Steel Sky. This is another take on a classic point-and-click adventure game, but with a different bit of a twist this time around. Not our usual side-scroller, but more of a 3D environment. Cory, what do you think of this one?
Well, I don't have the history with these guys that you may, so this is kind of a new one for me. I played a couple games in this genre, but by no means am I an expert, so I'm definitely pretty new when it comes to figuring out some of the mechanics with these games. But overall, I really like the way this game looked. I kind of think that the cel-shaded kind of design, layout, the comic book kind of cutscenes we get at the beginning and throughout, I thought were done really, really well. And it was all kind of like this welcoming thing, because when you get into these point-and-click adventures, there tends to be a lot of dialogue, a lot of talking. The pace can be slow, so anything to spice it up definitely helps. So my early impressions were definitely good. As I started to play the game, I did kind of get into some issues a little bit more just on the movement side of things. Maybe because I'm a gamer that tends to play games where I'm playing a little more of a fast pace. This is really slowing me down. So it took a little getting used to. But overall, I think when you first get into this game, they do a good job kind of easing you into how it all works, right? We know we're going to talk to a few different characters. We need to kind of exhaust through all the conversation options to kind of learn, you know, what's coming up, what's the next step, where are you going next? But like overall, they do a great job at it. So I can't really fault it for that. It's more just my, me not being so familiar with these types of games. So, I mean, overall, maybe as an expert, you have a better eye for it, but I think I did have a good time, when I first jumped into this one.
No, it's definitely got that point and click pacing to the game, right? When you're typically into one of these games, especially coming from the Broken Sword series, like I've done from the very first one all the way up to the latest Broken Sword 5, it's always got its own unique style. And you're looking to often gather material, gather resources, but it's the materials you gather and that you combine that help you overcome the puzzle, and you get some of that here at the same time. But if you're not used to that point and click adventure, I didn't find it was overbearing to kind of get into. I thought it was relatively easy to get into the game, kind of get you progressing through the story, and the story is definitely one of the highlights of what's going on. And it's cool to see this overpowering kind of sensation going on in Union City, and you're trying to get to the bottom of what's going on. You left an old friend in charge, and it's kind of gone south, and when you kind of gain a companion, things really start to change and open up, and it's just about moving forward and solving the puzzles. But sometimes I even got stuck on the puzzles myself a little bit, and then it took you a little bit, or at least for me, to kind of figure out. But they gathered this new intel, this way you get your information, and it's this little scanner, this little hacking gadget that allows you to pull up other windows and maneuver different things. And it's a new element to the developers, honestly, that introduces a new form of a puzzle. Typically when you're doing these puzzles, you have to gather a piece of string, or you gather a paper clip, and then you combine the two, and then that'll help unlock like a lock of some sort and get you into the next room, right? Or this time you're actually hacking all this futuristic stuff. And I think that was Union City is a cool city to be a part of and be in this world and see this big giant skyscrapers, kind of this futuristic look. And to get into this and then hack these things, this puzzle mechanic for me was a little bit unique, and I'm like, I didn't quite understand how it worked right away. And then when it clicked, I'm like, oh, you're just moving these little boxes, which then will help trigger other events in the puzzle, and that's how you kind of progress through some of this. And then, like you said, getting into the dialogue tree. I would like to get into dialogue trees and not have to go through every single piece of dialogue, and sometimes you're able to bypass that and sometimes you're not. Until you actually check off every single checkbox in the dialogue tree, it doesn't really let you progress forward, and that sometimes can slow down the pacing of the game. And I think that's where I think you fell into the little trap, Cory, of, man, it's another piece of dialogue, right? Where for me, I was kind of like, oh cool, more dialogue.
Straight to cargo. Gotta get these babies
Quarantined?
distributed.
Thanks for the ride, Wendell. Maybe see you again.
Typically in the Broken Sword series, I'm going to be comparing this back and forth because that's where I came from, and that's where honestly Revolution Software has started, and where I was kind of found into this thing. But it's always been this, like, they tried the 3D thing with Broken Sword at that point within that era, right when 3D started kind of becoming a thing. But then they went back to the roots and went to the side scroller, point and click, and you move your mouse and you click over here, and then Stobert would move over, and then you find the piece of information you're looking for, or whatever it is. Where here we actually use the WASD keys or the arrow keys to move through the environment, and that's something that's new for this kind of take. But it's still got that sense of that point and click kind of aesthetic that we're all used to. And then when you touch on Union City itself, I thought it's a unique look and style to the game. This whole cell shaded kind of aspect is really, man, it really kind of gravitates and pulls me into the game. And then the dialogue, so many options, so many people to talk to. But I did have a few issues, Cory. I was talking to Lady Songbird, and she's actually standing on top of the desk. And then when I pulled out and was able to talk to her some more, she was then in the desk. Like, I had a couple little hiccups here or there, some bugs on PC. It also came to Apple Arcade, so it was there for free or with the subscription service. So if you're able to check it out there, that could be one way to jump into this adventure. But for us, we're over on Steam, and I found there were just a couple little hiccups. Like, I walked away from the dialogue, I played out this whole complete scenario, and it was over with. And then when I went back, the option to start the dialogue was still there, but the characters were not. So then I actually clicked it and replayed the entire scenario again.
With
all
nobody
the dialogue
there.
was there, like everything was there. I'm like, man. So to see that, I was just like, it kind of took me out of the experience a little bit, because I've never had to experience any issues like that before in the past with the Broken Sword series. So to kind of get in this, man, my expectations were really set high. I had a high bar. I still do, but I think some of the hurdles that they encountered this time weren't really what they were used to or expected for Revolution Software.
Well, that's very strange.
All right, Cory, this is a different spin for Revolution Software with a point and click 3D like adventure. What do you score in this one?
Well, because I'm not huge into these games, I definitely wanted to give it a fair shot here. It's not the pacing I was hoping for, but the story is great, and that's what's going to definitely keep people coming back into this one. And because, like you said, there's a few different kind of game elements that maybe weren't in games like this before that we're getting in this that I think are really cool. I got to give this one a solid 7.5.
Nice. I'm a little bit higher than you. When you get this companion further on in the game, and you get this banter back and forth, that you're like, it really starts to kind of make it feel like home. And I thought this game moving forward for Revolution was a great step forward. I thought it was awesome to experience something like this. The art style obviously always gravitates to me in this kind of genre. So to get back for Revolution Software, not be a Broken Sword series, and yet be something different, I really did have a great time. And that story, it was absolutely awesome. I'm there with an 8.5.
Nice.
Gotta go. Now that I dealt with my U-chip problem, I needed to find out more about my new identity.
A great story supported by a well-done voiceover by all characters really allows you to immerse yourself in this one. But graphical issues at times and some control frustrations are what's going to probably hold you back.
I was enjoying my time in the piazza, but I doubted I'd learn much about Graham here.